Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of EdUp Career Schools, the scoop where every story matters. Today is going to be a critical conversation because if you are trying to understand the true meaning of higher education, you're going to have to get a notebook and pad, a notebook, pad, and pen, because we have an amazing guest today who is adored by thousands of people. And this man has also made an impact and an imprint in higher education. So let me give you some background first. So he has served as a professor, a researcher, a department chair, a dean, regional director, college president, division president, chief academic officer, board director, chairman, trustee, CEO, and chairman of several small to large sized nonprofit, market funded, and privately held systems of post secondary education. Did I get everything?
Lots of titles, yes.
All right. So let's welcome Dr. Fardad Fateri. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on today. So, Dr. Fateri, everyone wants to know, how did this all come together? How did your journey in higher education begin?
Yeah, in a way it was accidental, and in a way it wasn't. Like everybody else who went to college, I held full-time jobs during my undergraduate years, and during my graduate years, I started teaching as part of the work I had to do as part of my studies. Graduate students usually teach. And when I started teaching, I fell in love with the profession. I got so much out of it. I got so much energy teaching. I loved the entire learning community. And that's when I thought that I would make education my profession. Uh, at that point in time, I was thinking of becoming a clinical psychologist. But
Really?
after teaching in grad school, I definitely wanted to make teaching something I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and that's what I did when I finished my PhD. I started teaching as a professor. I did lots of research. I published and worked for very, very traditional research one institutions. And in the mid 1990s, I really fell in love with career education because I saw the impact on lives and society. And that's when I got into in the mid 90s, I got into career education.
Wow, I love that. That's a huge impact that you're making on our community also. But what
Mhm.
inspired you to lead International Education Corporation?
Yeah, before coming to IEC, uh, I worked for a very, very large multinational uh, uh, organization that was market funded, publicly funded
Mhm.
uh, company, and it was doing well. And but I really wanted a more purpose filled profession where I
Mhm.
was underground, interacting with instructors, and that's when I found IEC in 2007. And I visited the schools. I loved the passion. At that point, IEC had only 10 campuses. Actually, it was a very struggling school group of 10 campuses. The love and the passion I saw at the campuses for student service and student training and student success truly drew me in, and I knew I could create great impact. And that's when I joined IEC.
I love that. It's one of those things where you wish more people understood the impact that career education has on our society, in our communities. There's also these opposing opinions of, should I go to a four-year university? Should I go to a career college or a trade school? And a lot of times there's a lot of opposing opinions when it comes to what's the best choice for people. What are some of
That's
the critical setbacks or challenges that you have seen or experienced in career education?
Overall, I think the continuous dialogue is about relevance of career education in American higher education, and always trying to demonstrate the absolute necessity for career training in America to fill the workforce gap that exists and continues to expand. One of the challenges is exactly what you mentioned a little earlier,
Mhm.
is this dogma and this stigma with having degrees. I was stuck in that myself. I went for my baccalaureate degree, and
Mhm.
everybody tells me, how come you went for your master's and doctorate? Well, because after my bachelor's, I couldn't find a job. I mean, you know, I,
Exactly.
I never set out to get my advanced degrees, my master's and PhD. I mean, I got them because I couldn't find a job after finishing my bachelor's degree. Because degree schools most degree programs and most degree schools are not created and not designed to produce workers immediately after the completion of the degree. And one thing I always tell everyone is, I will never say community college is bad, a four-year
Mhm.
college university is bad. Degree schools have their place, career schools have their place. There is a spot for every type of training and education in
Absolutely.
America. So it's not about who and what should exist, but everything should exist, and students should have the choice of what they want to do. Not all students are theoretical learners. A
Mhm.
lot of students learn by doing. They learn through hands-on training and hands-on education, and that's okay. Not everybody can take tests
Mhm.
and learn calculus, and not everybody enjoys that. Not everybody likes it. There are different types of learners. And as educators, we need to understand and appreciate people are different. And we need to accommodate that through creating different modalities of teaching and learning, and creating those learning communities uh, makes for a richer platform and a richer ecosystem in American higher education. And so there is a place for career training,
Mhm.
and no matter what people say, it is an absolute need, and employers tell us that all the time. There is an incredible shortage for workers in healthcare and skilled trades and business, and the only companies, the only schools that offer those programs can produce those workers. Otherwise, employers will do that themselves. I mean,
Exactly.
if you look at a lot of different companies now, because as an industry, higher education has disappointed employers. If you look at the last 30, 40 years, employers continue to tell all of higher education what they
Mhm.
need and what they want. But we have, I'm not just talking about our career education space, I'm talking about all of higher education
Exactly.
in America. We have truly failed our employers because we continue to produce graduates, but we produce graduates that don't have the skills, they don't have the attributes, and they don't have the proficiencies employers need. So employers have started, I mean, if you look at the larger companies like Walmart,
Mhm.
Target, Google, Microsoft, they have their own education verticals within their own companies because they figured they can train more effectively than us. So you're going to see that trend continue to persist and expand in the coming years and decades.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate. I know that for a lot of career services teams, one thing that's not really being focused on, especially when it comes to placement, is soft skills, right? And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of times you'll see students being sent out to their internships, and some of these facilities are coming back and they're like, who did you just send me? And the
Yeah.
thing is, these students, they have the skills, but what people don't understand is nowadays employers are willing to hire people who have soft skills, not that great in the technical skills, but they're trainable, they're
Yeah.
coachable.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge piece that's missing. And what you said just now was loaded, because I started off in a traditional setting.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be this huge computer geek. I signed up for computer science. In the first couple of semesters, I just didn't like the environment. So I actually went over to a career school, but I signed up for the same exact program. The difference was, in traditional schools, sometimes you just have to meet the minimum criteria, to be
Yeah.
accepted into that college or university. In the
Yeah.
career school, now I'm directly with an admissions personnel. And
Yeah.
after he asked me a series of questions, his first thing was, hold on for a second. This does not suit your personality. Every question that I'm asking you, you're saying, no, that's not me. And
Yeah.
then I was able to be recommended for a program that fit who I was. And then I was able to get my bachelorette in 3 years,
Yeah.
because now it aligned with who I was as a person. And that's what's missing severely
Yeah.
in the education system.
Yeah. Well said. Well
You
said.
know, so here's the thing. Career and trade schools, they have been under scrutiny for
Mhm.
years by people, by the government, and some people, what they perceive in career schools are true, but in a lot of cases it's false, and it's a lot of misconceptions. What are some of the misconceptions that you have heard when it comes to career education, by students, by the government?
Yeah. That's an excellent, excellent question. A question that I think takes us back at least 30 years, because I think this whole issue with the career education space has started 30 years ago, when school groups in our sector started going public, and they started selling their shares publicly, and became publicly traded. And because of the expansion of school groups in our sector, and it all comes down to Title IV funds, right? Because these are, the federal student aid, which is a division of the United States Department of Education, is one of the largest banks in the world. I mean, it is a bank, and because it funds programs at all schools, whether it's a short-term 8-month program, or whether it's a PhD program, is they are underwritten. The funding is underwritten by the federal government through the federal resources under
Mhm,
FSA. So it, the politics of higher education is that then everybody's competing for a finite amount of money, and that's where the disparity and the differences
mhm,
become greater, because a lot of traditional schools that have been around for hundreds of years are now having to compete for the same students, uh, for a program.
mhm,
And of course, uh, the overarching the overarching principle that's guiding the difference is the tax status
mm,
of I call schools in our sector the tax paying
mhm,
school, and of course all the other, I would say most traditional colleges and universities are non-tax paying schools, and the a lot of people in the political arena say for-profit, nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are what I call a non a tax-paying school, if you're a tax-paying group, you are regarded to be inherently bad. Then you have to prove to yourself. I mean, this is to your question. Then you have to prove that you're worthy. If
Mm-hmm.
you are, on the other hand, a non-tax-paying school, you're great until something goes wrong. And over the years, I mean, if you look at the evidence and research that's out there, I mean, if you know, I'm a researcher, I'm an educator by training. If you look at the history of post-secondary education, the most significant issues that have existed in higher education in America has their root cause in the non-tax paying schools. And however, uh, the government, the federal government doesn't get involved in those. Uh, you know, the usually the issues become public. They go into the media, and you know there are lawsuits, but the federal government really doesn't even get involved because the all non-tax paying schools are identified as being good, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word, uh, they're considered. I mean, for example, I mean, I don't know if you've been following the news, but in the last 2 years, there has been significant news on financial aid fraud at a lot
Absolutely.
of non-tax-paying schools uh, that have focused on price fixing, right? I mean, price fixing is not only a financial aid fraud, but it's illegal. It's an antitrust issue,
Mm-hmm.
and there has been a class action lawsuit against 17 colleges and universities in the country, most of which have been the elite Ivy League schools in
Absolutely.
the country. And there is evidence that over 200,000 students have been affected by this. And I would say at this point, the majority of the elite universities that have been sued are settling with multi-million dollar settlement agreements with the students. However, there hasn't been one inquiry by regulators at the federal level about that uh, uh, lawsuit or about the allegations brought by the lawsuit. However, something significantly less
Hmm.
than that, if it happens in our sector, there will be a revolution.
It's
um,
over.
and again, you know, I think it is important to call a spade. And
Mm-hmm.
I am one of the most major supporters of regulatory oversight. I am not one to say we shouldn't have any regulation. I think we should have regulatory oversight. We should have incredible scrutiny over quality metrics. We should
Absolutely.
have uh, focus on quantitative outcomes that demonstrate quality experiences for our students, like graduation and placement and financial health of the organization. I am 100% for that. However, I also believe that all schools, all colleges and universities in America, regardless of their tax status,
Mm-hmm.
should have the same regulatory oversight parameters to ensure quality is standardized across the board. If our students deserve top quality programs, and they do, students at non-tax paying colleges and universities should have access to the same level of protection.
Absolutely.
Consumer protection shouldn't be focused on an organization's, on a school's tax status. It should be universal for all. And that's something I've been advocating uh, for years. It's not a very popular statement to make, Kathy, uh, but
We know.
but I think equality and justice and due process and regulatory oversight should apply to all organizations within the post-secondary education space in the country.
Absolutely. And when you think of terms like tax, profit, sales, a lot of people associate that with something that's negative, right? And the problem with that is being for profit, the people who are non-profit and who are falling under that umbrella of, let's say, fraud when it comes to, financial problems, nobody's paying attention because
Yeah,
everyone is focused on one sector because of what they fall under. It's kind of like those movies where you have an African American, right, or minority walk into a corner store and everyone is focused on this person, but the Caucasian guy is walking out with all of these items that they haven't even paid for, but no one is paying attention
yeah,
because people's perception is what they focus on.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, when I started off as an advisor back in 2007, I used to have students come in, and the first thing they used to say is, I know you get paid on commission. Now, it was not true, at the time. We got paid on graduates. But at
yeah,
the same time, look at the perception. You're
yeah,
trying to get into a high school. The guidance counselors are not interested in, marketing any type of career college because it's all about universities. But at the same time, not every person is that type of learner. So
yeah,
now you have students feeling that they're obligated to go into a four-year university. They have all of this student loan debt. They're working at Wendy's and McDonald's, and they still have no skill set.
yeah.
Now those same people are coming back to career education after all this money is now debt, is no longer an investment if you've done nothing with it. Now it's debt.
Right, right. No, exactly. Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. I know a lot of people would love to know, especially from your standpoint, what happened with IEC and the education department, because I
Mhm.
want to be able to give you the opportunity to avoid other people falling victim,
Uh-huh.
to these type of obligations. So what actually happened with that suit with education?
Yeah, well, we never had a legal issue with the department. That all started in 2021 when we were a, a proposed class action lawsuit was brought against one of our brands for the career college in Florida. That's how it all started. It was called the Brit case, and that case went on for a year and a half. But in summary, that case was pushed to arbitration. The federal judge did not allow it to be uh, uh, certified as a class action because there wasn't any evidence to support it. And of course, all this is public. If people want to go read it, I encourage everybody actually to go read the motions and the arguments that have been brought, but by the three law firms against our Florida Career College school groups. But the federal judge, after lots of motions and hearings, basically did not certify the class and pushed it into arbitration. And we went to arbitration, and we won the arbitration. And we not only won the arbitration, but the judge awarded us attorney's fees, which is extremely rare in such cases. So
Mhm.
other the attorneys from those law firms and this center at Harvard, they had to pay us. So we kind of framed the pictures, the checks, because we thought it's a pretty monumental
Mhm. Win.
demonstration of justice. But after that, some of the people who were involved in the lawsuits were given appointments at the U.S. Department of Education, and the same people started their inquiries into FCC, and and everything else you can read in the media,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing has been proven. Lots of allegations, lots of accusations, but nothing was ever proven by any fact. No student was proven to be harmed in any way. There was no factual evidence that demonstrated we even drew down $1 inappropriately. We had provided over 1.5 million documents,
Wow.
uh, tens of thousands of recordings, and nothing came out of that. And and this all ended in the settlement that everybody is familiar with after 2.5 years. Um, this group is a brand new group within the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education, I've worked with the department for 30 years. They are excellent, excellent professionals. They are competent. They're smart, and they're very supportive, incredibly focused, and highly ethical professionals, and I admire all of them very much. But the U.S. Department of Education has thousands and thousands of employees, and this unit was created in late 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all new to education. They've never worked in education, and that's the irony of what's happening in higher education today, is that a lot of people regulating us at that level don't have any experience with education. And in dealing with a lot of these new players, I found myself being the only educator who actually focused focused on students and student success and the student journey. And but I go into the camp of it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the world we live in, and that's just the structure. I'm the son of immigrants who came to this country to have liberty and freedom and justice, and I feel fortunate to be in a country that allows for that. And what I tell my own children is, the world is very complicated, and you can either accept the system and the design, and
Mm-hmm.
and use the system to make changes, or you can feel sorry for yourself
Yeah.
and not do anything. So I'm a strong believer in that this country is truly extraordinary. It's the best country ever, because I know what it's
Mm-hmm.
like everywhere else. We have our imperfections, but we are perfectly imperfect, knowing what needs to be changed. But as a country, we continue to evolve. The American narrative continues to evolve, and this process worked because our peers within the U.S. Department of Education, this new sector, they noticed that we have an outstanding record of student success. For many years, we have excellent graduation rates. We have excellent placement rates. We have an excellent record with our institutional accreditors. We have an excellent record with the regulatory oversight agencies in the states we operate, and we have excellent outcomes with the federal government.
Love it.
There's something called the financial responsibility ratio, the composite score. We have great 90/10. We have great FRR composite scores. We have great cohort default rates. We have great FSA audits. every year for a long, long time. And my friends in the sector who have been contacting me and saying, how did you manage to do this? I said, listen, it all comes down to having quality metrics demonstrating you have ethical standards that you abide by, and you ultimately it comes down to student success. And if you can
Right.
demonstrate that, no matter how long it took us 2.5 years, we demonstrated that we cared about our students. Even with the Florida career colleges, we taught out all the campuses and all of the students. In fact, we asked our regulators at the federal government to allow us more time to teach them out. It was an
Wow.
incredibly expensive undertaking, but it was absolutely necessary.
Necessary.
It was
Mm-hmm.
our responsibility to do it. And I think they were pleasantly surprised how much we
Mm-hmm.
cared about our integrity and our students. And like anything else, if you make ice cream, best make the best ice cream. No matter what people say about your ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the quality of that ice cream will persist. And with us, it was the same thing. Our record over the years with our all of our regulators demonstrated that we are quality educators that care deeply about student success. And again, I'm not going to say there aren't bad actors in our sector. There are
Yeah.
bad actors in any business.
Everywhere.
You're gonna find that, but we have a great system of checks and balances. We have strong internal controls, and we have demonstrated that to our partners within this unit at the U.S. Department of Education, and I think that's what. Uh, the end result was this settlement that we're very happy about.
I love it. I love it. How do you think we can change these misconceptions and this narrative? You have a favorite quote that you use: culture eats strategy for lunch. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, you know, that is that statement comes from a person I've really admired for many years. His
Mhm.
name is Peter Drucker, who was a professor and researcher at Claremont Graduate University here in Southern California. And Peter Drucker basically came up with that statement. And the underlying theme is that you can have the best strategy as an organization. However, if that strategy is not embedded in a platform that's ingrained in values and a culture that can help you build it, you will never be able to execute that strategy relentlessly. So I'm a strong believer in organizational culture and in values, and making sure there is a community of people who believe and who are passionate for what they do. I mean, you know, we are in a tough business.
Yeah.
Career education is not for everybody. It is difficult, and you must love serving students, and you must love making a difference, and you must love changing their lives to be successful. Otherwise, you will burn immediately. I mean, I when I talk to our instructors, you know, and when they're new to our sector, and they say, "Oh my God, this is so difficult," I said, "There is nothing easy about what you do, and it is very hard. But when you love it, there is nothing more rewarding than helping students learn and come to school, develop mastery on the terminal program objectives, and become proficient and then secure employment. I mean, there is nothing more rewarding. You know, I'm sure, Kathy, you've gone to graduations. When you go to a graduation
Oh,
career school, I tell you, it's it is a very moving experience, and that's
Absolutely.
why whenever I talk to a lot of antagonists who don't like our sector, uh, and it doesn't matter what line of work they're in, I always invite them to visit a campus, sit in a classroom, talk
Hmm.
to students, come to graduation to get a feel for the transformation that occurs to students from the day they start to the time the day they finish and then they enter the workforce.
Absolutely. You said something very important, transformation.
Mhm.
Every time that I'm training advisors, I always say this role is not for everyone.
Yeah,
It's not for the weak either.
yeah,
And I think one thing that's missing in this sector and higher education as a whole is that human centered aspect.
yeah,
So many schools are focused on the profit, they're focused on the end results. But if you take care of the people at the front end, everything else is going to fall into place. I remember having students who came to school every day with their clothes in a plastic bag because they were in shelters. But
yeah,
then to fast forward and see those same students walking across the stage on graduation day,
yeah.
that's what it is. You just transformed this person's life. And I think that this is what we need to get back to. We need to get back to the people. It's
Mhm.
about the students. Find out what are their aspirations, what are their goals, what do they desire, and then recommend the best fit that's going to get them to that ultimate goal.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I love
exactly.
it. So, what is next for you, Mr. Fateri? If you had to start from scratch, would you lead a chain of schools again?
I really don't know if I want to continue to lead. Uh, I love one of the things I've always told everyone throughout my tenure uh, as an executive is that I started in the classroom. I mean, that
Mhm,
was that's what kind of got my blood flowing, and
mhm,
it was such an extraordinary and transformative experience for me. And I always say, I started in the classroom teaching, and that's where I got my love. And I will end my career in education in the classroom. So, I think that that is definitely something I would love to do, and get in the classroom. And this time around, I believe I have a lot more gray hair than I did when I started. So I think I know a little bit more, and I'm hoping I could be of benefit for a lot of future leaders and a lot of future managers who want to do good, and at the same time, selfishly, I will enjoy it because I'm an educator at heart. I'm a teacher, and I'm a learner. I learn every day, and
mhm,
I enjoy learning. And everybody around me has taught me so much. I mean, whether it's a terrible experience and
mhm.
whether it's a good experience, I learn. I mean, people always find it very find it to be strange, but even the people who were criticizing us and using very terrible terms in
Mhm.
identifying us, having never been to any of our campuses, not having spoken to any of our students, make accusations. It goes to your soul. It's
It does.
hurtful. But even I thank them for, because I'm a better person because of them. And you learn from everybody.
Everyone. Mhm,
You learn from good people. You learn from people who don't know you. You learn from people who are strangers. You learn from people who hate you. And I think if you have that disposition as a person, you will always grow. Otherwise, this world would be too ugly, and you would resent being alive, and you resent everybody around you. And I think a lot of people always try to make me or feel so bad that I would get angry and jump at them. But that's not what people should do, right? You should
Exactly.
every opportunity that I see when I see somebody who hates me and hates what I do and hates what we do, I see
Mhm.
it as an opportunity to help them learn if they have that opening, and meanwhile I learn, right? Because learning is what keeps us alive. When we stop learning, that's when the end of our life gets close.
I love that. There's something to learn from every single situation. I mean, imagine living in a world where everyone was getting along and everyone loved everyone. It's not realistic, right?
Yeah,
And where would you grow in those areas?
yeah,
How would you be able to handle, different circumstances, those challenging circumstances where you really have to grow that thick skin? There's not going to be any situations that you're in where you're going to be able to turn up that thermostat and say, you know what, I know how to overcome these challenges.
yeah.
So I love it. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Um, uh, Nothing specific, but I am assuming most of your listeners, if not all, are in higher education and more specifically in career training and career education. My only thought and insight to share with everybody is to let them know the work you're doing is important. You are important. You matter. You are doing God's work. You
Absolutely.
are doing work that is changing the lives and the trajectory of lives in this country. Keep on doing it. Uh, there are going to always be antagonists. There are going to be always naysayers. There are going to be people who will criticize you, that will criticize your school. But know that what you're doing for your students and what you're doing for your communities and your employers is keeping this country the way it is, and it's improving it every single day. The work we do has societal impact.
Hmm.
Words don't change that. So keep going, move forward, charge forward with vigor, grit, and love and passion, knowing that the work you do for your students is more important than any word you hear from your critics.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I got butterflies. So one thing that I can say, you said something very important that you're doing God's work, and that's what keeps me going a lot of times, especially in those stages where you feel as if you're scrutinized. You always go back to, I'm doing this for God, so He's going to give me the resources and He's going to guide me on how to get through this. And I
Yeah.
think that's how everyone should think. Dr. Fateri, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. I know that you have brought so much value to our listeners. I would love to have you back at some point. But I know that you are going to be successful in anything that you do moving forward. And I know that you have made a huge impact on me and the people that you have served. All right. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Until next time. Bye. I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. I have been working diligently to bring awareness to career schools. There's so much that they have to offer our students and our community. Every single role within the admissions process is critical, whether you're a part of the admissions team, financial aid, career services, academics, everyone deserves a voice. Admissions is the first point of contact for your school, so you want to ensure that you have a team who exudes confidence, passion, and a clear understanding of effective communication with our potential students. I totally understand the pain of missed class starts, low appointment and enrollment conversions. And this is why I created Next Level Admissions Training by Motivate with K.A.T. This platform is a step-by-step process, and it is going to train your new and tenured advisors in every single step of the enrollment process to ensure that our students are inspired and they're ready and prepared to start class. Admissions is not easy. It can be very challenging, but it's definitely worth it. So if you're ready to take your school to the next level, head on over to lessons.motivatewithkat.com and check out Next Level Admissions.